My name is Cass and welcome to Mod-O-Matic. Today we are taking a look at the mod Ars Magica 2, created by Mythian. The version I used was 1.0.2. In this video I will try to show you the basics of this mod and also how to get started. Ars Magica 2 is of course all about magic. And one of the most important features is that you are able to create your very own spells. To start out, you will need to create your very own arcane compendium, which basically acts as a guide. To do that, you will need to find a pool of liquid essence, which looks like this. They can be found basically anywhere on the surface. Once you've found one, just put some blocks next to it, put an item frame at the top and place a book into the item frame, like this. After a little bit of magic, you will create your very own arcane compendium. The arcane compendium contains everything you will need to know. The guide section and the mechanics section are extremely important and I advise you to read them. They contain the most basic of informations and will really help you when you start out with this mod. Now that we have our arcane compendium, we can talk about creating spells. The first thing we will need is an oculus, which looks like this. To create one, just put 3 stone bricks, 1 glass block, 2 coal and 1 blue topaz into a crafting table like this. Blue topaz is a mod specific ore which can be found like any other ore and has to be mined with an iron pickaxe. Back to the oculus. Just right click it and you will see some sort of talent or skill tree, which is separated into 4 different categories: offense, defense, utility and talents. In most of the skill trees you can unlock different components for your spells. In Ars Magica 2, spells can consist of 3 different components: shapes, modifiers and compounds. Shapes dictate how a spell will look like. For example, projectile means that a spell you will create with it will shoot out a projectile. Modifiers modify the spell in some way, of course. For example, bounce will make a projectile bounce. And compounds are basically the essence of a spell. Here we have physical damage, magic damage or fire damage. But of course, there are also some more utility and defense based compounds. For example, we have dig or light. To unlock components you will need skill points. You start out with 3 blue ones, which you can basically put anywhere you want, just not into the talent section. There are also green and red skill points, which are the more advanced ones. Skill points you will get in dungeons, strongholds and also when you trade with NPCs. But the most important way is while leveling up your magic level. And to do that you will need to cast spells. I will talk about that a little bit later. But now back to the different colored skill points. As you can see, some of the components will need red or green skill points to unlock. You will get them at the higher magic level. I totally forgot to mention, you will only get 1 skill point every even magic level. From level 0 to 20 you will get blue ones, level 20 to 40 green ones and 40 up you will get red ones. That should about cover the basics of the skill tree. Now that you've unlocked your different components for your spell, we can start with the next step in spell creating, crafting your inscription table, which looks like this. To create one, just simply put 2 wooden blocks, 3 wooden slabs, 1 torch, 1 feather and 1 spell parchment into a crafting table. Spell parchment is a new item which can be crafted by putting 1 stick at the top, 1 paper in the middle and 1 stick at the bottom. Now that you have your inscription table, you will also need to create a book and a quill. Once you have one, just put it into your inscription table and you can start creating your spell. You can freely choose whatever you want. In our case, we will use projectile, finally, and physical damage. Physical damage, please work. Physical damage. Ah, finally. Now just press on the book and the quill and you will get your spell receipt. Right click it and you will see what type of spell it is. Here we have projectile and physical damage. And also the materials you will need to craft or create that spell. Last but not least, the third page will tell you what kind of affinity you will gain when you cast that spell. I will talk about the affinity mechanic a little bit later as well. Now that we have our spell receipt, we can start with the next step. And for that, you will need the crafting altar, which looks like this. The crafting altar is one of the most important structures in this mod. You basically create your spell by throwing the needed materials into it. But first we will talk about how to create one. Just look into your Arcane Compendium under Structures and Crafting Altar and you can basically see how a crafting altar should look like. It is incredibly helpful to look at the different layers, which makes building one very easy. Now let's talk about what different types of items you will need to create one. First, the main block, in this case it's wood, and the caps, in this case it's glass blocks, the lectern, and the crafting altar block, as well as magic walls. Oh, and of course a lever. So, instead of wood, you can also use these different types of blocks in your crafting altar to make it more powerful. If you look into your Arcane Compendium, you can see that they will add more effects. Effect is another word for components, which means you can add more components to your spells, the more powerful your crafting altar will get. So you can also exchange the caps, which in my case was glass, for these different types of blocks. You can see here these more strange looking blocks are Sunstone and Moonstone, which are new mod specific items as well. They are very powerful and can be rare. Now to the lectern. The lectern is a new item as well and can be crafted by simply putting one wooden block and 3 wooden slabs into a crafting table like this. Another new item is the magic walls. Just put 2 Wintium dust and 1 stone into a crafting table and you will get 16 magic walls. Wintium dust is a new ore, which can be mined with an iron pickaxe and can be found like any other ore. Just put it into a furnace and you will get Wintium dust. Wintium dust is a very important ingredient in a lot of recipes. As you can see, the crafting altar block is as well crafted with Wintium dust. Just put 1 atop a stone and you will get a crafting altar block. Now that you have all the different blocks, you can create your crafting altar and you can start creating your spell. To do that you will need plank runes. Plank runes can be crafted with cobblestone like this and you will get 2 plank runes. Runes are extremely important ingredients in a lot of spells and you can also change them a lot by putting them together with different dice into a crafting table. As you can see, different dice will make different colored runes. The next and almost last step will be finding and crafting the materials you need for your spell. In your spell receipt on the second page, as I already mentioned, is the materials list. I already prepared them here. As I mentioned before, you will also need a plank rune to begin your spell and a spell parchment to basically end it. So now that you have all the ingredients you will need, go back to your crafting altar. To begin, just put the spell receipt on the lectern and throw a plank rune into the middle of the altar. As you see, a little bit of magic will appear and an icon over the spell receipt. Now just throw the items that appear there into the crafting altar. First the Wintium dust, then the arrow, a snowball, the red rune, an iron sword, and of course at the end a spell parchment. And tada! The spell is created. Now just right click it and you can choose what type of icon you want. I will choose this one, as well as a name. You can also randomize it. I will use this name. So now just press escape and you can use your projectile physical damage spell. Now that you have your first spell, you can start earning experience for your magic level. To do that, you will need to use your spell against a proper target. In my case, I will use a zombie. I just have to change the difficulty. So now I will just spawn the zombie, oops, and will use my spell against it. A zombie is a proper target for my spell, so I will get experience. As you can see, for damaging spells, you will need some sort of creature to damage to gain experience. And for other spells, for example spells that include dig, you will need to dig blocks to gain experience. So now just let me switch back to peaceful. And I will talk about something I completely forgot to mention, your mana and burnout bars. Of course, when you cast spells, it will cost mana, and the more spells you cast, the higher your burnout bar will get. The higher your burnout bar, the more mana your spells will cost. So you won't be able to spam spells mindlessly. Now that you have your first spell, let's talk more about the basics of this mod. Here we have the different types of new ores that come with the mod. These ores, two of them I mentioned before, Windium, Kimmerite and Blue Topaz, can be found unlike Moonstone and Sunstone ore like any normal ore. Moonstone ore is special in that it comes down at night in form of a meteorite. If the moon is waxing, the chance for it to spawn is higher. And Sunstone ore can be found where there's a lot of lava. Mostly in the nether, but also in the normal world. Apologies for the cut, I had to re-record some footage here because the old one contained wrong information and was a bit rushed. I will talk next about the plans. The plans are all very important. They are used in a lot of recipes and spells. We have here first the Blue Orchid, which is very important and can basically be found anywhere. The second one is the Desert Nova, which can be a bit annoying and can only be found in deserts, of course. Next we have a plant which I can only pronounce in German, called Aum. It can be found where there are witchwood trees. Witchwood trees are also mod specific trees. So next we have the Tama root. Tama root can be found in dark places and caves. One plant is missing, which is Wake Plume. Wake Plume can only be found in water, or more to the point, they can be found a lot in swamps. So that should be that. Next we will get back to the normal footage. Now I will give you a quick overview of the Essence system. The Essence system in Ars Magica 2 is basically an energy system. First, there are a ton of different machines that either need Essence to work, extend the range, or save it. Oh, that keystone chest shouldn't be there. One of the machines that need Essence to work is the Arcane Reconstructor, right here. It repairs your items by using Essence. Because my iron pickaxe only mined one block, it is almost repaired instantly. Now it is as good as new. You can of course do this with every item you use. Essence is created by this structure, a nexus. In your Arcane Compendium, under Structures, you can see the different types of nexi. The Dark Nexus, the Essence Nexus, and the Light Nexus. What we have here is of course the Light Nexus. Unlike the other two nexi, it produces essence without any resource. But it does produce the least amount of essence. All the different type of nexi have their benefits and drawbacks. Next, let's talk about the range. Machines have to be in a 10 block radius to be powered. For some of the spells, your crafting altar will need essence to create them. But because all the different types of nexi produce different types of essence, you will most likely have to create all 3 of them. So, that was only a quick overview of the essence system. There's a ton of more stuff you can discover, but I think you can do this yourself. Ars Magica 2 is an enormous mod with a ton of content, and I only really talked about the most basic stuff. There is so much more, and I couldn't really cover it in only one video. I hope I made starting out easier for you, because personally I did struggle a lot at the beginning. But before I go, let's talk about affinities, because I totally forgot to mention them. As you saw earlier, spells are tied to specific affinities. What that basically means is that the more you cast a spell, the more you will shift to the affinity of that spell. In our case, we had a spell with the Earth affinity. When you click on the different affinity sections, you will see their drawbacks but also their benefits. The Earth affinity will give you an overall damage reduction, but you will also sink in water more quickly. So every of the different affinities have their benefits but also their drawbacks, so you should be careful what type of spells you cast. Hui, now we are at the end. I hope this video was helpful for you and that you enjoyed it. Of course, as always, I hopefully see you next time. See ya.